We're getting a divorce. So, pack your things and leave this place," said my husband. At that moment, our daughter came over and said, "Divorce? That's a funny thing to say, Dad." "What? Tracy, are you trying to stop me, too?" "Of course not. But are you okay with all the trouble you'll be in if we get divorced?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" My husband looked confused. The daughter had spoken for me. Then, I continued. "If you get a divorce, you'll be burdened with debt. My name is Katie, a 48-year-old nurse. My husband Ryan and I are the same age, and we live with our daughter Tracy, who is in her 3rd year of high school. My family has been running a hospital since my grandfather's time, and my husband works there. Although I am not a doctor, I have worked as a nurse at the same hospital for many years. And now I am in a management position as the vice president. The current president is my father, and as I am an only child, my husband is slated to be the next president. However, despite his impressive title, he was frankly a failure both as a father and as a doctor. In the early days of our marriage, having landed a job at my family's hospital made my husband modest and humble. He was gentle in his speech and well regarded as a doctor who listened carefully to his patients, enjoying a good reputation within the hospital. I felt a great happiness that my husband was valued in this way. However, as he advanced in his career as a doctor, he began to attract attention from women and gradually started to indulge in nightlife. "I'm going out drinking with some friends tonight, so I won't need dinner." "Again. You've been going out almost every night lately. Let's enjoy dinner as a family for a change." Tracy must want to communicate more with her father, too. Understand me. This isn't just a party. My boss is there, and we're discussing the current state of medicine. Well, you wouldn't understand since you're not a doctor. Again, the phrase, "you're not a doctor," was used frequently by my husband to shut down my arguments. And, little by little, his trustworthiness as a doctor began to wane. "I'm the next president. Do as I say." One day, I saw him shouting at a nurse like that. On another day, I heard exchanges that didn't seem like proper consultations. "You have a stomach ache? For now, take this medicine and see how it goes. Next, please." When a patient said, "Wait a minute. I also said my head hurts," he replied with an annoyed, "Ah, all right. I'll also give you some headache medicine then. Take care." This way, he did not listen to the patient's complaints properly. The hospital conducted regular surveys, and most of the complaints received were about Ryan's responses. The hospital's reputation was gradually declining. As one of the managers, I thought I had to do something about Ryan. It seemed that my husband had a complex about my family and relatives. Being able to work as a doctor in this hospital, and having a guaranteed future as the next president, it's all thanks to you, Katie. I'm truly grateful. My husband often expressed such self-deprecating words. His family was a typical salaryman family in the countryside, while mine ran a fairly large hospital. Therefore, when he was drunk, he would sometimes lash out at me with abusive words, fueled by his self-loathing. You probably think of me as a pathetic guy who can't become a president or a doctor on his own, don't you? No, I didn't say anything like that. Lies. You're mocking me, said my husband, slamming the table. Dad, please stop. The daughter, startled by the loud noise, came into the living room. What? You came to mock me, too? No, that's not it. I'm saying stop shouting and hitting things. Quiet. Don't tell your father what to do. Don't take it out on Tracy. She has nothing to do with this. You always gang up on me like this, treating me poorly. But let me tell you something. Sure, without you guys, I couldn't work at the hospital. But remember, without me, there would be no successor to the hospital. If the hospital goes under, you all will become poor in an instant. My husband always silences me by using the fact that he's the only successor as a shield. Indeed, it's true that there's no one else to take over the hospital, so I couldn't talk back. He always justifies his whims and complaints by reminding us that he's the successor. I now realize it was a mistaken belief, but I thought that if he became the president, his self-esteem would be satisfied and he would settle down. So, I chose to endure it. Then, one day, something I never imagined happened. Mom, can I talk to you for a second? What's up, Tracy? You seem so formal. My daughter had just returned from her college preparatory school. And immediately said with a solemn face. My husband was out again today and not at home. This is Dad, right? My daughter said that and showed me the screen of her smartphone. What was displayed was unbelievable. Is this, Dad and one of our hospital's nurses? But who is this child? What my daughter showed me was a certain photo. It was a picture of my husband Ryan, a nurse, and a child. All three walking together looking happy and close. To an outsider, they would look like a happy family. Dad said he had a conference the day before yesterday. And that he was supposed to come back today, right? Was he actually with this family instead? I also thought my daughter's suspicion might be correct. Looking at this photo, it seems he is having an affair with this woman. But, with a nurse from the same hospital of all people. Her name was supposed to be Hannah, and she was still in her early 20s. Pretending to go to conferences or study sessions with seniors. But actually getting involved with someone 20 years younger. I was disgusted and felt chills. And I had reached my limit with my husband, who strutted around doing whatever he wanted because he was the only successor. At that moment, someone came home through the front door. It was my husband. What is this about? I briskly walked to the entrance, thinking it was the perfect timing. Intending to show my husband the evidence photo I borrowed from my daughter's smartphone. Then, an unexpected scene unfolded before my eyes. The very mistress and about a 2-year-old child I just saw in the picture were there. My mind couldn't keep up with this sudden development. Wait, hold on. Why are you here? And the child too. Right, you know Hannah, don't you? She's a nurse at our hospital. Also, this child is mine and Hannah's. What? Well, that's the deal. We're getting a divorce. Wait, what are you suddenly talking about? My husband laughed at me through his nose as I panicked. Huh? What do you mean suddenly? I've always wanted to divorce you. Do you understand how much I've suffered in this house? You and your father have always mocked me, right? I've told you that's not true. That look of annoyance on your face seems like an insult to me. Compared to that, Hannah is perfect. She always respects me and is kind to me. She is truly the ideal partner. Hannah had a triumphant look next to my husband. So, pack your things and leave, said my husband. But I couldn't help but laugh, realizing he had overlooked a crucial fact. Hey, why are you laughing? Just thinking about the divorce. What? Is this some act to stop me? I'm tired of this hassle. Let's get divorced quickly. Saying that, my husband thrust the divorce papers at me. At that moment, our daughter came over and said, "Divorce? That's a funny thing to say, Dad." What? Tracy, are you trying to stop me, too? Of course not. But do you realize how much trouble you'll be in if we get divorced? Huh? What are you talking about? My husband looked confused. My daughter had voiced exactly what I wanted to say. Then, I continued. If you get divorced, you'll be saddled with debt. Saddled with debt? What do you mean? I was surprised at my husband's reaction. Have you forgotten? Such an important matter. Remember when you were still paying off your student loans? And my father decided to cover your tuition? With conditions. Now that you mention it, something like that did happen. My husband suddenly looked as if he had understood something. It's surprising he had forgotten such a crucial matter. He had entered medical school and became a doctor. But he was struggling quite a bit with the student loan payments. At that time, we were dating, and I had asked my father if he could help. I truly loved him back then and wanted to do anything to help him. Therefore, my father agreed to cover the student loan on the condition that my husband marry into our family and become the future president. Thus, if we got divorced, not only would he lose the position of president, but he would also have to repay the student loans. Then, my husband suddenly started to play dumb. Did we make such a promise? I can't believe it without evidence. He must have thought it was possible to blur the lines since it was a long time ago. If there's no evidence, he could get away with it. That's what he must be thinking. However, there's no way such an important agreement wouldn't be documented by me or my father. What are you talking about? I told you at the beginning of our marriage that it's stored at my parents' house. Did you forget that too? When I said that, my husband looked frustrated. Seriously? Hannah, having watched our exchange, timidly asked. I've been lost in the conversation, but what exactly is going on? Isn't that hospital owned by your family? Hannah confronting my husband. It seems he had lied to her. Unfortunately, that hospital belongs to my family. I interjected to clarify. That's... You've been deceiving me. I can't forgive this. Perhaps Hannah believed that marrying my husband would make her the president's wife. Be quiet. I never said that the hospital was owned by my lineage. What? You've always boasted about being the next president. And that the hospital would soon be yours. So, you were just married in and received everything on a silver platter. My husband seemed angered by the word silver platter. Don't act all high and mighty when you're not even a doctor. There it was again. Not being a doctor. I didn't want my daughter to see this scene, so I stopped them. If you want to argue, do it later all you want. But you will pay compensation. Huh? Compensation? Oh, for cheating, right? Then, I don't mind you claiming it. Since Ryan will pay it all off anyway. Hannah said this with a look of annoyance. It seems she was unaware of that detail. What are you talking about? There's no way that man has that kind of money. Huh? But he's a doctor, right? He should have enough to pay compensation. This man is an incredible spendthrift. Despite me covering all living expenses, he doesn't save at all and blows through his salary on fun until it's not enough. To the point where he's now taking advances on his wages. What? He's taking advances on advances on advances. Simply put, he'll be working for free for the next year. My statement also turned my husband's face pale. Wait, hold on. That's supposed to be cancelled out since I'm your husband, right?
Ha!
Why should I cancel out the money you've wasted on hostess clubs? And brand purchases? Besides, as a manager, I couldn't possibly do that. Our hospital is very thorough in that regard. You definitely won't be getting your salary for the next year. That's impossible. Then, what about my compensation? Of course, you'll be the one to pay that. You're kidding, right? I absolutely hate that. And no salary for a year. What about living expenses? Do I have to work and earn for our living expenses? I thought I'd live a comfortable life as the wife of a doctor and the future president. Saying that, Hannah was fuming, her face turning bright red. Her stomping around was reminiscent of a kindergartner who couldn't get the game they wanted. It's ridiculous for a doctor to be taking advances on their salary. Why did I even get involved with someone like you? You were the one who came onto me first. Once again, my husband and Hannah started arguing. Amidst their quarrel, my husband turned to me with what seemed like a trump card. Wait a second. Without me, there would be no successor, right? Doesn't that make it essential for me to become the hospital's president? There's no one else suitable to be the successor. My husband said this with a triumphant look on his face. Oh, right. Then I can become the president's wife and receive an executive salary. Hannah also began to smirk suddenly. My daughter was the one to put a stop to their scheming. Unfortunately for you, I'm going to inherit Grandpa's hospital, so we don't need Dad. What? My husband was taken aback by my daughter's statement. What are you talking about? You're not even aiming for medical school. You can't just say something like that and expect to get in. I sighed at my husband's comment. You really don't pay attention to our home, do you? Since high school, Tracy has been working hard, aiming to become a doctor. That's why she's been attending prep school since her sophomore year. Really? You have no right to belittle her. When you haven't even been paying attention to your own daughter. And Tracy has received an A evaluation from a university ranked higher than the one you graduated from. Seriously? Tracy has. My husband was incredibly shocked. He had struggled a lot to get into medical school, and even then, it wasn't a highly ranked university. His pride was wounded knowing that his daughter might get into a better university than he did. Even if you get into medical school, it's not a world where a woman can succeed. I sighed again at my husband's words. She's not going to work at a university hospital. There's no such male-dominated nonsense in running a private hospital. In fact, I'm confident Tracy will become a more respectable doctor than you are now. Currently, you neglect your consultations. Don't listen to your patients, try to slack off as much as possible. Only think about nightlife and even cheat. Such a terrible doctor won't be admired by anyone. Well, with Tracy here, the successor issue is resolved. Next is to finalize the divorce and claim compensation from you. My husband hung his head in defeat, seeming to have given up on arguing any further. Wait, just a minute. What about my life? I have to support a child. That's your own doing, isn't it? You're the one at fault for having an affair despite having a child. From now on, live a prudent life and be a good example for your child. Saying this, Hannah bowed her head in resignation, finally coming to terms with her actions. Afterward, the divorce was finalized, and my husband and Hannah left the hospital. My ex-husband, due to his reputation among patients and the recent events, hasn't been able to find work in any hospital. He's currently juggling multiple part-time jobs, living in a shabby apartment, and focusing on paying off his debts. Hannah, having changed her perspective, is now working hard as a nurse in a different hospital. She's become more conscious of being a role model for her child, and even sent a letter apologizing after some time. She settled the compensation much faster than my ex-husband, and is living strong as a single mother. Meanwhile, my daughter successfully got into medical school, and is currently studying hard as a medical student. I look forward to the day we can work together while supporting her college life, and managing my work and household chores. I hope to continue living happily with my daughter, maintaining a strong mother-daughter bond.